Hello, everybody, and welcome to Why Is This a Podcast? I am your host, Kieran Watts. Good to see you all again, ladies and gentlemen. I would say if I could see you, but I still can't because of COVID. But in any case, thank you for watching, and special thanks to my guest on this episode, who I'm going to introduce in a moment. Because while we've all been talking about the pandemic, I've obviously spoken about it a lot on here with my guests and otherwise. But I do feel we're running the risk of ignoring another major crisis, which is, of course, that of climate change. And so to discuss that is the wonderful Olumide Idowu. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
Joining me from the great nation of Nigeria, who serves as the youth focal point for the Small Grants Programme of the United Nations Development Programme for Nigeria, and previously served as the Regional Director for Africa at the International Youth Federation. Sir, good to have you with me. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me as well.
My pleasure. Now, first question before we go into the proper ones. Do you want me to call you Olumide? Or do you want
Olu.
me to call you Mr. Climate? Because that's what you call yourself on Twitter.
Yeah, Mr. Climate is okay. Yeah.
Mr. Climate. Mr. Climate is a lot more fun. As I said, you're very active on climate change, the environment, and using communications and storytelling to get over the importance of tackling climate change, as so many wonderful young people are. Um, I want to go just straight into it. Why are political leaders not doing enough about climate change, and how are you holding them to account?
Okay. Well, thank you very much once again for giving me this opportunity to also be part of this podcast. And I think it's very, very important at this ongoing pandemic. And I would say that why our political leaders are not doing enough is because of their greediness, because of their selfishness. And I think they are seeing climate change issue as a non-profit because it's not going to profit them for anything, but they are not seeing the side of how it's affecting the people and the planet and how we can actually leverage on innovative volunteerism, leverage on opportunity that can build a nation and that puts nation or nature into perspective of leaving no one behind. So our leaders are actually not having that self awareness of what is actually going on. Though most of them know, but because of their selfishness, because of their greediness, and because of they don't want us to make them accountable and for what they've promised during their campaign and what have you. So I think for now, the only thing we can start to do is to keep putting pressure on making them to understand the impact and effect of climate change on the earth and on the people, and to also make sure that they are transparent and accountable for all their promises, all their campaign promises, when it comes to green recovery, when it comes to sustainable development. We need to let them understand that this is an urgency. Climate change is just like a time bomb, and you can see what is happening across all the world. Different kind of issue from the Australian firewall, from the Brazilian Amazon, and a lot of hurricanes, a lot of flooding everywhere across the value chain that is happening. And this is supposed to be an urgent issue, an urgent thing they need to attend to. Look at our agriculture. We can't even farm again because of the desert encroachment, because of the oil and gas spillage. So it's very, very important that we make them accountable and make sure that we let them see the need that people are dying. We need to show them statistics. We need to show them data of how the environment is deteriorated and is debilitated, and how the environment is not conducive for people to stay again. So I would say that the greediness, the selfishness of our people, is of our political leaders, is actually causing us not to have a sustainable living, not to allowing us to have a sustainable future for all. Thank you.
I could feel your passion through the screen.
Thank
It's
you.
a wonderful thing to behold in circumstances that, of course, are far from wonderful. Um, I like the point that you make, obviously, about their greed as well. It's rather ironic about greed and profit. It's ironic given how much it will cost us in the long run if we don't act on climate change. There's an irony there because of, as you mentioned quite rightly, our agriculture being hit, disaster relief, the likelihood of mass migration. These are not going to be cheap things to deal with. In the long run, it'll make them far more money to actually invest in green economies and sustainable development as opposed to burying their heads in the sand. So it's a great irony there. So I feel like you covered that quite, as I said, very passionately there. What inspired you to join climate activism?
Oh, thank you. I think I've been hearing this question most of the time when I have different interviews, and I think it's very important to. I don't normally have too much to say on this particular question, but I would say that I was opportune to have a father that is into agriculture, and with all his experience and with my follow-up and meeting to see what is happening in the agriculture sector shows to me that we need what we call climate smart agriculture. When I talk about climate, I'm not talking about GMO. I'm talking about sustainable agriculture. I'm talking about how we can build resilience. And with this opportunity of seeing him for several years, and with my involvement in an organization called ISEC, when I was back in the university, gives me the understanding that the right to a livelihood, the right to opportunity for people, and the right to activism is a way for us to, make a sustainable living for everyone. So I got engaged with my experience from my dad. I was able to join an organization called ISEC that is about developing young leaders and building their potential for purpose. And through this opportunity, I've seen myself leveraging on environmental issues, education, and health to see how I can drive conversation, drive project implementation, and drive sustainable impact. So this is one of the, these are the list of my starting point into being an activist and into being an environmentalist. That's where I am today.
I just want to confirm that you said ISIC and not ISIS.
ISEC.
I'm glad you didn't say ISIS. I mean, I never.
No. ISEC is a French acronym, Association Internationale d'Étudiants de Commerce, Association of International Students in Economics and Commerce. And we started in 1948. Yeah. And I'm very happy that I was part of the organization when I was in university. Then I got to the National Steering Committee as the Vice President for Communications. And here I am today. That's my bedrock. That's my stepping stone to what I am today.
It's certainly had as I think I mentioned it before we started recording, maybe during it, you have a very, very impressive resume. So it certainly seemed like a stepping stone to the right place. I'm just so glad it wasn't ISIS.
Yeah, no, not ISIS.
I don't know. I think it would have been very surprising. I never knew that ISIS was so passionate about sustainable development.
Oh my God. Not really.
The things you learn about people.
Exactly. Thanks for pointing that out.
So you've represented, as we've covered, you've represented Nigeria. You're representing Nigeria at the moment at UNDP as part of the Small Grants Programme. You've represented Africa at the IYF. And you've represented them at over 10 high-level global governance meetings on sustainable development. You mentioned sustainable development a lot. For those of people who don't know, what is it?
So talking about sustainable development is a very interesting thing that we are just hearing about it now. But I'm very sure one of our leaders back then in the olden days, I've also mentioned something like this, but it was not channeled as the way we are seeing sustainable development. But I can categorically say that when we talk about sustainable development, we talk about leaving no one behind. We talk about the grassroots movement. We talk about empowering and impacting the future leaders and today's leaders. And we talk about a society that needs to live for purpose. So for people that don't understand the sustainable development, they need to have the idea that sustainable development is like creating an atmosphere that is more conducive for the people and the planet. And the idea also is for human society to live and for them to enjoy their labor, what they've worked for, and how they can see themselves eating from the fruit of their labor and not being hurt or impacted or even affected by the so-called issues around the world. So sustainable development is very deep and it's very consistent if and only if we the humans, we people can understand that that is the only stepping stone, that is the only way forward for us to build resilience. So this also links me to now say sustainable development goals. In 2015, the United Nations now, build on the Millennium Development Goals, that the MDGs, to see how we can, spread and explain this thing to people to understand the Sustainable Development Goals. We have the 8 MDGs, and I remember very well, I was very opportune to be at the part of post Millennium Development Goals when we were doing review in Nigeria. And we're able to actually understand that the first goal in the MDG, which we talked about the maternal mortality, we were only able to achieve close to 50% in my country, just because it was an urgency of rate of women in the community and how they are giving birth. So a lot of people talk about the maternal mortality, and a lot of people were also talking about the goal 7, which is the ensuring environmental sustainability. And I think for us to now understand the 8 Millennium Development Goals and for us to focus on how we want to develop the entity or develop the people and the planet, the United Nations came up with the Sustainable Development Goals, which consists of 169 targets. And these 169 targets comprises of all the solutions each country, individual countries are looking forward to achieve. And I think they've done a very fantastic work by giving us the SDGs. 17 goals, and the last goal that is talking about partnership for the goal now brings all the goals together to see that they are all interwoven, and you cannot do without. If you're talking about life water, life below water, there's no way you will live to end poverty. There's no how you will not talk about water, sanitation, and hygiene. There's no how you not talk about sustainable community and cities. So sustainable development goal is interwoven, but the major thing is that we need to focus. We need to strategize in addressing these goals using their targets to make sure that our strategy, our input, and our implementation strategy makes everyone inclusive, because the idea of leaving no one behind is a very crucial idea that will make us to understand that even the indigenous people, even the animals, no one is left behind, because everybody have their own part to take in the Sustainable Development Goals. And that's why we keep saying that no life must lost. Everybody must accept that we are all equal and we can enjoy the land that is being given by God. Because you can't take away the issue of life. When I say life, livelihood is very, very key, along with the Sustainable Development Goal. The bourgeois, the rich, the poor, no matter any class you are all embedded in the 169 targets, and everybody have their own inch. And that is why you see the rich men are doing CSR. That is why you see the rich people, the rich companies are supporting innovations, they're supporting, trying to do what? Build what we call investment opportunities for different sectors, different young people, different ideas. And that is one of the things I say, okay, sustainable development idea is leaving no one behind and making sure that everybody have equal rights, equal opportunity.
That was an incredibly powerful answer there. Incredibly moving, actually.
Thank you very much.
And I'm glad that you mentioned in such strong terms inclusivity, because we're going to get onto that now. Because I wanted to talk twofold on this. The first bit is, do you think that Africa is excluded from the conversation about sustainable development and the environment?
That is very powerful. That question is very, very powerful. And
I hope it's not true, but I have a sinking feeling in my stomach that it is.
Yeah, let me read the question and give you. So do I feel that Africa is excluded from the conversation about environmental sustainability and climate change? We are not, because we are the one that is most affected, because this is what we call underdeveloped countries. This is a country that is this is a continent that is facing issue when it comes to fossil fuel, when it comes to environmental degradation, when it comes to desert encroachment, when it comes to flooding, when it comes to oil spillage, gas flaring. You know, we are actually facing the bad part of the environmental issues. And that is why we have the so-called UNFCCC. That's why you have the conference and the United Nations Convention on Climate Change. That is why we have the treaties. That's why we have the articles. That is why we actually have the Paris Agreement. So that is why we see a lot of countries are rectifying, a lot of countries are making new commitments. We are talking about the nationally determined contributions. The countries that are making more commitment by submitting their ratification to the UNFCCC. So this is something that is very important. There's something I always say, anything without us, it is not for us. If you are not on the table of the conversation, definitely it's not for us. So for you to bring us on the conversation table, for you to bring us on the discussion table, meaning that we are part of it and we need solution to it. So environmental sustainability, climate change issue is very big. You can see a lot of activists, young girls, young boys in Africa advocating for climate justice, advocating for sustainable living, advocating for us to end fossil fuel, stop gas flaring. Just yesterday, a friend of mine in Ghana was just recognized as a Goldsman Environmental Achievement Award, because he was able to push the government of Ghana to stop fossil fuel, to stop gas flaring. That is very, very important, and is a success story for him and for the country. So Africa is not excluded. We are actually, like I said, is a continent that is very, very powerful, resourceful, and we are looking for that opportunity to make sure that polluters pay for their polluting, the way they pollute, and make sure that our country, our continent is conducive for us to say we don't need to run away. It's a country that is full of milk and honey. So we are facing all this problem. Like I said when I started, climate change is a time bomb. If we don't take urgent action, it's going to explode. And we are not praying for disaster. We are not praying for any risk to happen. But we need to continue to consistently talking about it, seeking for justice and seeking for more support from any international organization, any partnership that can make sure to have a sustainable Africa that will lead to a sustainable future for all. And we're also looking forward to make sure that our leaders are also demanding for the rights of the people, not demanding for their own selfish interest, so that environmental justice can come to stay. Climate change action can continue. Innovation to drive conversation can stay in Africa, because only Africa can solve Africa problem. That is just the solution. So we are part of the conversation. We are not excluded, and we're looking for more partnership to build a community that is conducive for everyone.
I'm glad that I was wrong. I thought that that was just my mispreconception. So I'm glad that I'm wrong, and it's very energizing to see people taking matters in their own hands. Your friends in Ghana,
Yeah.
and yourself, of course, you're a great example to us all. Going back to inclusivity, then, youth empowerment. Why is that so important in the conversation about climate change?
So, like I said, I think when you look at the demographic, when you look at the structure, according to statistics, let me use Nigeria as an example. Almost 80 million youths out of like 250 million, let me say that. We have 80 million young people. And out of these 80 million young people, we have nothing less than 50 million young Nigerians that is calling for change, that is calling for sustainable living, that is calling for driving political conversation, climate politics, that is talking about environmental sustainability, that is talking about climate justice, environmental justice. I'm going to relate this as well to African Union, because we have the UN African Youth Envoy that is also calling for justice on environmental issues. And when you look at this demographic, when you look at this set of young people in Africa, you will know that we are not just joking. We are making that voices to head, and we are making that conversation to drive more sustainable solution. So I give example of some powerful young people from Africa. We are from Uganda that is doing a very great work in advocating for climate justice. We are from Kenya, Elizabeth, that is making that changes, planting trees, saving nature. We are from Nigeria, Adenike, that is making sure that our ecosystem, talking about land degradation, talking about our forests that have been taken away. We have in several countries, in Ghana, talking about Gausu, that is advocating for African Youth Initiative on climate change. We have in several countries across the world, across Africa, that are talking about climate change. And that is what influence or make us to say we need youth envoy. And they gave it to us in African Union. In Nigeria, my organization has influenced the conversation to the Ministry of Environment to make sure that our voices are heard. And it shows to us that leaders, as of for now, they are ready to listen. We just want them to make sure that we are not only part of the conversation, but we want to be part of the implementation strategy. We want to drive implementation for them. We want to show them how they can do what they need to do rightly. So African youth, we are part of the conversation. African youth, we are more empowered. We just need to do more. So we need that space. We need the government to create more space so that we can have more conversation that can lead to more sustainable solution for our leaders to see that we are creating innovation, innovative projects, innovative ideas around waste management, around upcycling, around recycling, around wash, that's water sanitation and hygiene, and different solutions that can drive sustainable solutions, that can drive green recovery. So African youth, we are vibrant and we are innovative.
Vibrant's the word,
Thank you.
and I love the word. I mean, the thing that strikes me about environmental activism is the way that so many people in power paint it as some form of extremism. It's not extreme to say the planet is dying. We should do something about that. I don't. I've never understood why that's seen as extreme. You've got the climate change deniers, of course, and how you can deny the existence of climate change at this point is beyond me. I mean, you use the term time bomb,
Yes.
and in so many respects, the bomb's already started to explode.
Yes.
And we're seeing the shrapnel just flying all over the world. You got the Amazon, as you said, Australia wildfires in California, wildfires. I mean, in California, of course, America, of course, withdrew from the Paris Agreement. It's absolutely maddening to see people continue to deny climate change and besmirch those trying to do something about it. Two things I want to talk about that you've either are or have been involved with. The first is Tons of Nigeria, and second is a FICO app. I was wondering if you could just explain uh, to me what those two things are and how they help with youth empowerment.
Fortunately for me, sometime back in the years when I started my advocacy and my conversation around, environment, climate change, issues that is solving environmental issues, I was selected as one of the Tunza. So let me tell you, Tunza is a Swahili name, and it means we care. We care when you care for something. So like you care about the environment, you care about people. And what they were doing there is to create a network of young people that cares about the environment, that talks about the sustainability of the environment. And I was also part of them. So what I was doing there was to advocate for Tunza. And it was created by United Nations Environmental Program in Kenya office, that's the African office in Kenya. And what we just talking about is to see how we can start talking about the urgency of environmental issues. So I did a little bit of activities, have a conversation, developing small groups conversation, meeting different stakeholders to see their views and their ideas on how they want to see the environment in future. And that was the idea of Tunza. And I was representing the Tunza network in Nigeria. And we're just creating conversation, using different social media tools to amplify the voices of people implementing or doing something fantastic on the ground. So that was the idea of Tunza. So for Efiko app was just an app that want to educate people on different areas. And when I was in ISEC was consulted to help them to implement this project across university because ISEC is a university organization that I was involved. Like I said, I became the vice president of ISEC in Nigeria. And when I was on the national board, this EFICO approach, also I lead the project to make sure that this app is being used by different universities in Nigeria to see is as an educative app that can help you to check informations around education and stuff that you want to understand. So it's just for a driving conversation for people to understand that we can also have education or information at our fingertip. So that is how EFICO app came up. So I have to develop and work on this project for a couple of, and it's what we are doing is also to help to enhance learning in secondary schools and helping those secondary schools to understand subject that matters, stuff that matters to them. They can easily go on the EFICO app and read about topics that are something that is, it's a mobile solution. Let me put it like that. It's a mobile solution for students. So we are just a body as an ISEC to implement that in secondary schools so that people can take quiz, can take, read about things they've read in school just for them to refresh their knowledge. So it's an education app. So that's how I got involved in EFICO app.
They sound wonderful. And I'm sure we can find some way of linking to them in the description. So it's been an absolutely fascinating conversation. Thanks so much again for being here. It's been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your example, and thank you for raising awareness of these issues and giving
Thank
voice to young people
Yeah. Thank you very much for having me as well.
and
Yeah.
leading from the front, which is
Thank,
what I admire about sort of the youth climate movement, is the fact that people are leading from the front.
thank you so
So,
much.
well, Mr. Climate, everybody, thank you, sir. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Mr. Climate, Olumide Idowu. I'm your host, Kieran Watts. Join us again, won't you? Goodbye.